All right. Hi,
Hello.
everybody. It's super exciting to be here today. It's been a little while. I feel like this is my first live since the fires and since I think my first live this year. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it is. So this is very exciting. It is. Yeah. Hi, everyone. Happy 2025. We're just going to pretend like it started in February because
Right.
uh,
I'm gonna forget January.
we all need a fresh start. So I hope that February has been great for everybody. I couldn't be more excited to be here with my dear friend, fellow Virgo sister, um, the most incredible career woman, somebody who actually has done my makeup for me today, basically, with her Wander Beauty products, the most generous human being I know, and mama at that. So we were actually just talking before this about how she is about 8,000 different things she needs to do on behalf of the baby as well. And I'm sure we have a lot of moms on here. I don't miss those early days. It was so hard.
I
So I
thought I
feel
was out of the weeds until I wasn't. 12, 10, and 11 months. I am back to the beginnings,
crazy.
people.
But she's almost a year. That's so
I
crazy.
know. I know. In a
Very
month and a few
exciting.
days.
Oh my gosh. But anyways, you all might know a lot about Divya. She is seriously one of the most inspiring human beings I know. When I met her, I like sort of clung onto her and wanted to know everything about her, and then clung to her for many years after. But I'm going to give you a little background on her. She is a serial entrepreneur. She's an investor, a board member, and a startup advisor with over 20 years of experience. She began her career in investment banking at Goldman Sachs, as many phenomenal professionals do, before moving into institutional investing at InvestCorp and FirstMark Capital. And after co-founding multiple companies, she launched Wander Beauty to simplify beauty for busy lives. Her latest venture, Five Sens, redefines fragrance to match ever-changing energy. As an active investor, she has backed nearly 80 companies through Concept to Co. and served on 10 plus boards championing diverse entrepreneurs. Most recently, she announced the launch of her book, Pitch Perfect: A Founder's Guide to Fundraising for Startups. Very warm welcome to Divya. I still don't know how you do all that you do, but I will text her at like 10:30 in Los Angeles and I'll get a response. And she's 3 hours behind me. So I don't think she sleeps very
Yes,
much. But
I know.
we're
I'm
gonna
working on that. January was my month of sleep. I like channeled my
yes.
inner sleep needs and decided that I'm going to sleep better. So now you can try that again, Ellie, and see how it works for you. I may just not answer because I may be asleep.
Good. I hope that you don't answer. But I am going to go into the founder's journey and fundraising mindset because you've written a book about this. You've actually done multiple sessions for Female Founder Collective and 10th House for us, also for our higher tier founders who are further along on scaling. And you have the most incredible way of articulating it. So I'm very excited for this book. Um, but you've successfully raised capital multiple times and have also sat on the other side as an investor. So having both sides of the table, how has your perspective on fundraising evolved over the course of your career?
Wow, it has changed tremendously. So I started out on the institutional investor side, worked as a venture capitalist, multi-billion dollar fund, private equity professional, multi-billion dollar fund, and I have co-founded 5 companies. I have raised angel money, family office money, venture money, private equity money, pretty much you name it. I have raised it at some point during my 5 CEO stints. And I will tell you that I have seen this entire market evolve. So in the early days of when I started my career 20 plus years ago, 2 guys in a garage with an idea could raise money off of an etching on a paper napkin. And that was exciting. Like there were innovative ideas and blockbuster businesses that were built that way and got early funding. And now as the market has evolved, the cost to actually enter the market and start a company has gone down dramatically. So and it continues to go down dramatically. So Google, Dropbox, AI, all of these tools and technologies have removed friction in the process of starting a business. So now we have a proliferation of businesses. We have so many more companies than ever before. And the bar for fundraising has gone a lot higher. So
Yeah.
fundraising in terms of a landscape, it has become more easier to start a company, more difficult to get a company funded. People are looking for some sort of early traction or metrics. The idea stage is getting funded less and less every day. I've seen that kind of
Right.
evolution happen. And I think my personal perspective in fundraising has changed dramatically as a founder. I used to think money is green. I'm a hardworking, intelligent, type A burger like you, Allie, and that we can do anything. We just put our head down, we focus, we get things done. But the reality is that investors add so much more than money to your business. They add strategic value and operational expertise and depth in ways that you could never imagine, especially
Yeah.
ones that have invested deeply in your sector. They're going to give you insights and guidance that's going to allow you to build your business better, faster, and cheaper. So finding the right alignment there is really important. And I think that as an entrepreneur, my lens has changed from just having this competitive race to get a lot of term sheets and pick the best one and the best valuation to who's the right money for me, who's the right partner. So I've evolved my thinking and my perspective in this realm.
What I think is interesting is because I think it was 5 years ago, you taught a class on this, right? On how to map your fundraising strategy. Can you speak to the process of that, of finding those right investors that you're talking about? Because it's so true. Not all investors are created equally. In fact, some might be a pain in the butt for you. I'm sure I've not been that helpful for those companies that I've invested in, and then I just have questions, but not solutions, right? So can you talk a little bit about how you can begin to map that strategy?
So I think the first thing you need to do is close your eyes. We need to like channel our inner like Zen in terms of like, what are we building? So close
Yeah.
your eyes and say to yourself, what business am I building? What capital am I going to need to get to those milestones that I want to achieve? So are you building a high growth, fast moving business that you want to eventually IPO or sell for hundreds of millions of dollars? Then you need to kind of say to yourself, okay, I might need venture capital to be along for this ride. If you're trying to build a smaller business that's a lifestyle for you and you just want to have a small and profitable business that provides for you and your family and supplemental income, then, angel funding and, a loan might be the right answer. And so I think that when you're mapping out your capital structure and your capital strategy, you have to understand what business are you building. It all starts with what are you building? And how do you need to get there? What capital do you need to get to where you're trying to go? That mapping exercise is the most important thing that you ever do. That is the single most important thing, is understanding who you
Do
are
you
as an
do that
entrepreneur.
first?
First. First. It's like, what am
Like
I
before
building?
you
What am I
like
creating?
start hiring
And you keep
people?
doing it over and over. You do it
Yeah.
when you first start and you say, I am now launching a new fragrance business. And this is as close to I've been to launch in a while. And, I see a white space in the clean fragrance market. I've had a personal pain point here. And how am I going to address this? And really just map out that I'm going to bootstrap because I decided that that's the right thing for me. And the second part of figuring out what business you're building is also the second part of that is how much risk do you want to take? And that helps
Mhm.
inform your capital strategy and road mapping. Do you want to take the ultimate risk? Are you going to max out your credit cards? Are you going to take a second mortgage on your home? That's the bootstrapper. But there may be other people who say, I want to raise institutional money from day one because I want to de-risk this exercise. And so what business are you building? How much risk do you want to take? Those are the two biggest things that you need to address before you map out any strategy for capital.
I think that's so important. I think too often we just jump right in with no plan and then ultimately be like,
That's the
oh,
worst
we need money, right? And then when you're at that point, you need money, you're on your heels and it's a really difficult place to go and actually try to get capital from.
Mhm.
So I love that you sort of should ask yourself those questions first when deciding between bootstrapping, angel investors, or venture. Um,
100%.
Also in your book, you outline strategic fundraising,
Mhm.
when, why, and how much. Can you kind of break down the principles founders should keep in mind when they think about the when as well as the why, right?
When is always when you need it versus when you want it. You will have a much faster, better fundraise when you're going from 1,000 stores rollout for your CPG product to 6,000 store rollout and you have purchase orders sitting in your inbox and you come to investors and you say, I have demand for my product, I have traction, I have product market fit, give me the
Yeah.
money to execute this. The when you need it always makes it faster and better than when you want it. That's that's really important on the win side. The why, you really need to assess, why do you need the money? And I really urge founders to not do it for the TechCrunch article, the New York Times profile, the notch in the belt that I've raised so much money. I actually say that that's a bad strategy. I think you should raise money because you actually need it and you believe that you've got product market fit, you've got some initial traction, and you're going to take money to put against that traction to scale your business. So try and take as little money as possible in these early stages of where you're trying to find product market fit and trying to figure out, is this product right? Is the pricing right? Is the offering right? Is the service right? We kind of get a lot of this stuff wrong in the early years. And so iterate, test, learn, iterate, build, just like keep testing till you get that kind of product market fit. Then you really consider more institutional money and you assess, what's my burn rate? What are my runway needs? How much money do I need to get to milestone A? Which is like, I get into a retailer. Or milestone B is like, I have 1 million app downloads and I'm ready to scale this thing. So you really have to have some sort of traction and guidelines, but also milestones you're trying to achieve, and assess how much capital you need to get to those milestones. And then you raise it, and my high recommendation, in stages. Raise as much as you need, plus 10 to 15% more than what you need. Because building a house or doing a home renovation project, raising money for a startup is the same thing. It takes you longer than you thought, and it costs more money than you thought. And so 10 to 15% of that money is going to go to mistakes. It's going to take longer. It's going to cost more.
Yeah.
You're going to hire the wrong people. You're going to have to fire them. It's going to be a little expensive. You're going to work with the wrong manufacturer, and then you're going to have to fix that problem. So we all make mistakes. I'm 5 times in. I'm still making mistakes. Have a cushion for mistake capital.
Question for you on the one evaluation of how much money you need to raise. Like, what is your process for identifying that, right? Because I think a lot of times founders will be like, $1 million sounds good, or and then you see this sort of very squishy allocation of funds, right? How are they going to be allocating that capital once it's in the door? Do you have a steadfast way of identifying
The first thing you
exactly
need to do, peel the onion back. What are the unit economics of your business? Are you running a service? Or do you have a product-based business? What are the unit economics? For every unit sold, every service sold, or every product sold, what is the cost? What do your unit economics work on a unit of 1? What is your margin? When you understand your unit economics, that helps drive the vision and the mapping of how much money you need long term. Early on, so many founders get this wrong. And when they get this wrong, it's a very expensive mistake. Because if you start a business and you're selling a product for $100, but you're actually making it for $80, you don't have enough money for customer acquisition, customer retention, marketing, brand awareness, influencer marketing, press, all the flywheel items you need to build your brand and build your business. So look at the unit economics on an individual basis initially as you're starting your company, or even keep reassessing it as you scale, as you get bigger, as you get more efficient. You buy products or services and you have unit economics and synergies, and you can scale and have larger minimum order quantities. You can drive those margins up and drive your costs down. And that gives better unit economics, and that helps drive efficiency for the capital process. But it all peels back to unit economics. Then you say, okay, how much do I need for inventory? The big buckets of when you're raising, you say, okay, maybe I need $1 million. That's my hypothesis. But now I'm going to take a bottoms up analysis to say, how much do I need for product? How much inventory do I need to build? If I want to get to X million in sales, what team members do I need on my team to get to X million in sales? So what are those hires? What is it going to cost me in terms of recruiting packages, benefits, maybe headhunters? What is the cost of that talent? Because outstanding brands and outstanding businesses are built by outstanding people. Never underestimate the cost of amazing people. You get what you pay for. And so invest in people early on. When you're thinking about your capital raise, people should be a big component of what you're going to spend your capital raise on. People, product, and then infrastructure. Do you need office space? Do you need machinery? Do you need what do you need that are kind of hard goods and things and services and infrastructure? And then marketing. That's a big piece of building any brand or business. What are you spending on marketing, and what is your marketing strategy?
And then for a service business, how do you think about unit economics? Because that's always been a tricky thing, for those who are watching who maybe have a tech business, they're a SaaS company.
Yeah.
I've always tried to figure out, like, how do I sort of back into my unit economics for
I think you have to have a
service
path to scale and really assess, like, what's your target market? Are you selling B2B, business to business? Are you selling business to consumer? What are your milestones? Do you need 25 small to medium businesses on board to break even, to, amortize the cost of what it takes to build the software and the service? Or is that 100? And so, or do you decide to go after big enterprises and you only need 2 of them? And then you're break even. But the reality is the sales cycle when you're selling into big enterprise might take you 6 to 12 months to sell enterprise software, because there are 200 decision makers and 20 meetings you need to attend before you get a sale done. So really understand the end market of your business and what it's going to take, what milestones you need to achieve to get the revenue goals you need, and what that's going to cost you from a service build-up perspective, what talent you need, what infrastructure, what software, what technology, what investments you need to make to get there.
Got it. That's super helpful. And then for product market fit, you talked about that too. Do you have a definition of this? Because I always like to ask this question, because I think everybody's a little different in how they evaluate it. And it's interesting to hear from the founder side as well as the investor side.
It's so funny. I literally call it the dogs are eating the dog food. But that's legitimately what it is. It's that every founder has a vision for what they're creating and why it's unique and different and has a strong point of difference. But the reality is, like, you put it out there, and what you think is going to happen and what actually happens are 2 different things. It's
Right.
that's often the case. Like, you may be creating a product for Gen X and Gen Z happens to love it. Or you're creating something for Gen Z and Gen X happens to love it. And so this completely fundamentally shifts the business that you're creating. And so I always say, do a lot of research up front. That's how you really determine product market fit. Take a group of at least 100 people before you even think about starting a business, and assess different age groups, different ethnicities, different socioeconomic backgrounds, and test your product or service around their appetite, whether it's consumers or it's businesses, depending on where you're selling in. Get some early data on, like, if I were to create this, would you buy it? I have a friend who does this really funny exercise that I think is genius. So he has a thing where he creates Facebook lead generation ads. And for those of you who don't know what a Facebook lead gen ad is, it's basically you go on Facebook and you see an ad for a company like, here is a like Christmas outfit for dogs. And it's like a dog with this really cute little Christmas outfit on. And it's like, do you want this? Give me your email. And they would just go out there and create these wild and crazy ads for all different products of all different types and all different types of services. Like, do you want someone to walk your dog 3 times a week? Like, it could be anything. And then you put your email. And just by running very cost-effective, inexpensive Facebook lead gen ads, you can assess whether people actually have an appetite for the business that you're trying to create. I created the best new sleep sack for babies. And here's 3 reasons why it's better. Give me your email if you're interested. I mean, I may have not even made the sleep sack yet. But the point is, like, is there a market for it? A very cost-effective Facebook lead gen ad campaign is going to tell you whether there's appetite. And if you do wide, broad targeting, the Facebook algorithm will actually start serving the ads to the people who it's resonating with. And so it
Yeah.
all ultimately auto selects. And then when you get those emails, you see the traction, or you have them fill out a demographic survey and you understand who these people are, where do they live, what's their age group. And these are all early market research, should not be underestimated. This is literally one of the most important things you should be doing as when you're running a business and starting a
What?
business.
Kimmy Scotty actually had a similar, who is also an investor and a founder, right? I think having both perspectives is so important. But she did that early on as well, where they would do landing pages though,
Yep, of
and
course.
drive email campaigns and then see how many and what the interest was and at what price point, et cetera. So it's like, it was almost a foregone conclusion that you knew at a minimum what your business could do out of the gate.
Oh,
So
I
you're
love
not
this.
putting so much risk on the table.
Pricing strategy. You don't know how to price your product? Do A/B testing. Drive people to a landing page and show them two different pages, or do an email campaign and have it have two different prices in the early days and see what happens. What's the open rate? What's the click rate? What's the conversion rate to sale? Track metrics and understand people's appetite. Ultimately, as a founder, you know what we're doing? We're servicing a consumer, whether it's a business or it's an individual end consumer. We are in a service business. We create at the behest of customers. So let's be 100%
Yeah.
in tune and touch with them every step of the way.
I love that. I want to jump to the gender factor in fundraising, because it's like we all know the abysmal stats about women getting, I think right now it's at less than 3%, sometimes it's less than 2%, but it's actually going down, not up, which is super depressing. I want to talk about the gender factor because you do talk about it in your book. What are the unique challenges you think that women face when it comes to fundraising, and how can they address them or navigate around them or with them?
So I'm going to stereotype a little bit because this really speaks to my own personal experience of being an institutional investor. So first and foremost, women today are getting about 2.1%, and this statistic is from 2023, of the venture capital funding that's out there. So that's a tiny, tiny sliver. Women of color are getting 0.39% of venture capital funding that's out there. So these are abysmal statistics. We need more women in the position to write checks as institutional investors on the venture side to drive the ecosystem of more female founders getting funded. I think this is just a fundamental shift that we are seeing happen slowly over decades of me doing this. I've definitely seen it change, and I've seen a shift. So I'm happy to see that. However, we need more women writing checks. So this is why angel investments, you do a lot of angel investments. I have a family office and invest in a lot of female entrepreneurs. We need to fundamentally be the change that we want to see in the world and write checks and back female founded businesses if we want to see female founders succeed. So that's step one. What are the unique challenges that women face? They have a higher bar. They undersell themselves, and this is a stereotype, but I'm just going to tell you from my own personal experience. I have had so many guys walk into a meeting with negative statistics. I'm on a scale of 0 to 100. Their statistics are like a -5, but they walk in like they're batting 1,000, and they're like, "I got everything. I'm amazing. My market share is huge. My market is huge. My traction is amazing." And they have nothing. Like the emperor has no clothes. Okay. But their attitude and their energy and their projection and their confidence is at a solid 100. So what I always encourage women to do when they're fundraising is that believe in yourself. When you believe in you, you will be able to recruit the best talent in the team that is going to invest in you, taking your vision and turning it into a reality. You're going to get the best vendors to back you because they're going to be invested in your success to grow your business. And ultimately, you're going to get the best investors to write you checks because when you believe in yourself, others are going to believe in you. And that is going to be a cycle of success for you. So look in the mirror every day and believe in yourself. When you believe in you, everything is going to fall into place. And that is my number one piece of advice for female entrepreneurs. Go in there with confidence. I was a shy Indian girl who was introverted from day one. And it took me many years of having milestones in my career, building a company, selling a company, getting promoted at a job. There were all these things that just help incrementally, very slowly build my confidence. And just continue to build your confidence, because when you believe in you, everything is going to fall into place.
I love that. It's so true. And it is interesting that it's like, we talk about the stats. We talk about how, when women go into rooms, they're more defending their sort of potential outcomes. But I think it all boils down
Be
to
prepared. Yeah,
their
be prepared
also
and have
their
a vision and sell
confidence
your
going into
vision.
the room.
Yeah,
Like
sell your
when
vision, but be
you don't
confident in
seem
yourself, because then other people will be
confident.
confident in you.
Yeah, absolutely. And you won't get those questions necessarily because they're
Yeah.
already confident that you are going to be a great leader and going to build a great business. You start to get
Yep.
those sort of, it's maybe chicken and the egg, because you start to get those questions about, they're more sort of on the defense questions when you seem like you're not totally confident about the business that you're building. So I couldn't agree with that more. And I think every woman needs to do some exercises to get themselves confident, like going in front of the mirror, giving yourself pep talks, having a
100%.
significant other who thinks you're incredible, pep talk you, whatever you need to
I
feel great going in.
used to have a Post-it on my bathroom mirror, and it says, failure is not an option. And I used to just look at it every day. And I was like, I have to succeed, and therefore failure is not an option. So I'm just going to keep going. They're going to be horrible days, hard days, difficult days, days where you want to give up, and you just keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Um, we already heard confidence is one trait. I wanted to talk about, you've, I think, invested in over 80 different companies at this point.
Mhm.
What are the winning traits that you look for in a founder and that you've
So
seen
I
in a
will
founder over time be the things that have contributed to their success?
So I'm going to give you two buckets. One is, I have found success investing in athletes. I was an athlete, and I have found that my investments in CEOs who were former athletes, whether they were professional or not professional or played any sport at a competitive level, they have an incredible ability to be a team player. Leading and running a business, it's very important for you to be a team player. It's important for you to take direction from a coach and take direction often from an investor. That's an important piece of building and scaling a large business. And then also just having this ability to lead, and that comes from being a captain of a team. So I have seen that just my investments in athletes have just been amazing, and I myself am an athlete, so I kind of get that. And then if I were to just separate out what are the traits that I look for in founders, I will say it boils down to two things. One is intellectual curiosity. I am an incredibly intellectually curious person. And as a founder, I often find that I don't know a million things and I've had to figure them out. I've started 5 unique businesses in 5 completely different industries, and I have had to learn those industries from the ground up. And when you are intellectually curious and you ask the right questions and you network and you reach out to people and you are a sponge and you're ready to absorb all of that knowledge, you're inherently destined to be successful. So intellectual curiosity, very important trait. Second most important trait, I would say, is adaptability. The only constant in building a business is change. Everything, it's like, building business is like riding a bike. Being an entrepreneur is like riding a bike, except the bike's on fire. You're on fire. Like everything's on fire, unfortunately. Like you literally are living through this situation in which everything is constantly stressed. Just think about, your days as a founder, my days as a founder. They're just chronic challenges. Just when you think you're turned the corner and things are calm, the next crisis falls on your lap. And so this
Yeah.
ability to be adaptable is inherently an important. A lot of people just they get ruffled and they can't get back and they can't recover from these setbacks. And so adaptability is an incredibly important trait for being a successful entrepreneur.
And to those points, how do you actually identify that in founders? And how can founders in a pitch process show you that they embody some of these traits?
I think it's actually I think it's pretty transparent. So when I ask a question and a founder doesn't know the answer, there are ones that just like, number one, bullshit. And then I know I'm like, I don't want to back this founder. Number
Yeah.
two, get defensive, like, don't want to back this founder. Number three, the person who says, I don't know, I'm going to come back to you and figure it out. That's the intellectually curious person who figures out the answer and comes back to you and
Yeah.
has the humility to do that. So, that's a perfect way. You ask them a questions that they cannot answer, and you really understand what is the path of how they handle that situation. And then the other piece is adaptability. You just look at all the change they've had in their career. Have they gone from job to job? Have they moved from city
Right.
to city? Like, what is their ability to adapt? Or do they live in, the house with the picket fence with 2.2 kids, and they've always had that stable and steady life, and they don't have the ability to adapt? So you can kind of suss that out a bit.
Yeah. Let's talk about fundraising landscape, because I'm
Yes.
sure there's a lot of people that are on or
Yeah.
listening who are curious about what does 2025 look like other than the dumpster fire?
Oh,
Um,
yeah, yes. Well, they're the LA fires, first and foremost, to take a moment for all of, our friends, our coworkers, our families, and people who've been impacted. We have started this year with very difficult challenges. And when we think about the fundraising landscape, you need stronger fundamentals in this market than you ever needed before. This
yeah.
continues to be a theme that you need strong fundamentals. So you need those unit economics, you need a clear path to profitability, you need to set yourself up with a unique point of difference. We're not backing, imitation, we're backing innovation in this market. So these are kind of constant themes. And I would say another big theme is sustainable growth versus growth at all costs. In the early days of my venture career, we used to tell founders, spend, 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 and drive that top line. You would just keep spending your way to revenue. And now it's all about sustainable growth. So, the market and the landscape has really shifted. But I will tell you that founders who are solving a unique problem and are uniquely positioned to solve that problem and have strong unit economics and capital efficiency in their business, they're getting funded every day.
What does sustainable growth look like to you though, Divya? Like,
Mhm.
is it just in terms of percentage or of year over year revenue growth, or in employees? Like, can you give a couple high level examples maybe of like
I think
how
it
people can
varies
maybe,
by industry. I think it varies
yeah,
dramatically by industry. Sustainable growth in one industry might look like 30%. It may look like 70% in another one. So I think it depends on the size and stage of your business. In the early years, hyper growth is normal. Like, especially if you're building a
yeah.
consumer brand, that early product market traction and fit and word of mouth and viral advertising and the days of TikTok and things going viral, hyper growth is normal, right? But then sustaining those longer growth periods are something that you have to prove and scale out in the years to come. I will tell you, I have made this mistake as a founder in the early years of building Wander. I was like, growth at all costs. We used to go 371% year over year, 291% year over year, the year after that. And we just grew and grew and grew. And then I realized that it gets really hard to comp those numbers as you get much bigger. And so I maybe would have made different decisions about assortment and scaling things back and having less launches, not burning the team out as much, and retaining talent over a longer period of time. So they weren't, running a marathon every single day. There's a lot of things that I've learned from making mistakes.
And I think that helps also to give insight into, I love that, too late to lose. Uh,
Yeah.
I think that gives great insight into also like what investors are looking for from a benchmark perspective too. I do
Yeah.
want to go back to the fundamentals of the pitch, because you have such specific things that you teach in your
Yeah.
book. And in fact, Pitch Perfect includes 4 pillars of a compelling pitch. Can you give us a preview of what some of those pillars are and why they're so
Sure.
important?
Super important. I would say the first pillar is the problem. What problem are you solving? Number two, innovation. What is your innovative approach? I always say this: innovate, don't imitate. So the problem, your innovative approach. The third piece is, what early traction and validation do you have? Even if you've not even started the business yet and you're in
Yeah.
pre-seed mode, Have you done market research and done surveys and demonstrated a need and traction that people want this product? Have you done those early Facebook lead gen campaigns and can show me data that people want this? And so having that problem, innovative approach, traction validation, and the last piece is team capability. I always say early stage investing is people, idea, opportunity. Late stage is people, product, distribution. And that's, kind of how you have the lens of an investor thinking about the pillars of what you're looking for.
Two things in that. One, sometimes we do get the question of, what if I don't have a problem, right? Like, what if I'm not addressing a problem? Can you
This is a
speak to
nice
that
to have business.
Yeah, right. And I mean, I have a POV, but I'm interested to hear, like, do you have to have a problem? And if you are creating a product that already exists in the world, for example, what can your definition of problem be for that founder? Or should they even do it?
I
What
think they should. And I'll give you an
them?
example. Let me just use 5 cents as an example because this is a great example. Like, does the world need another fragrance brand? I will tell you my unique POD. When I go into, and I tell this, so serves many examples. When you walk in to pitch a business, I always start with a compelling statistic. And I think that grabs people's attention and gets people engaged. So I tell people 87% of Gen Z consumers actually engage with fragrance. They wear fragrance, they use fragrance in some way. This is an incredibly compelling statistic.
And the next
growing up,
worse.
Yeah. So growing up, Indian American in a homogenous neighborhood, literally was teased about my smell. People were like, "Oh, you smell." They're like, "No, you don't smell. Your clothes smell. Your clothes smell like curry." And so I grew up turning to fragrance at age 10 as a young girl as a form of my identity. This was my DNA. I didn't leave the house without putting on some sort of body mist from Bath and Body Works or, any sort of fragrance, duty-free mini perfume my dad would pick up from his travels. And this became my form of self-expression and my identity. And then later on in my journey of having children, and you've had 3 and I've had 3, you realize that fragrance can often be loaded with phthalates and many of other chemicals that can be hormone disruptors. And this can impact your fertility. So I basically became allergic through an autoimmune disease and also through education, eliminated all the fragrances I ever used and found this massive white space. I said, there's a big opportunity here for people who want incredible projection, sillage, quality of a designer fragrance, but they want it at an accessible price point and they want something clean. They want something that's not going to give them hormone disrupting toxic chemicals into their system via their largest organ, which is your skin. And the average woman is ingesting 5 pounds of hormone disrupting toxic chemicals into her skin every year via her personal care and beauty products. And so clean fragrance that are sustainable at an accessible price point. And she wants to have fragrance be more than just spraying a fragrance for the hell of it. It's about capturing your mood bottled. And like, I'm creating an experience where this is desire in a bottle, burn for you, or it's into deep self-love in a bottle, or life of the party. We were talking about confidence in a bottle, channeling these emotions, which are a deep emotional connection with your mood bottled and doing it in a clean, sustainable way so that everyone can have it be accessible to them. There is a white space. Fragrance is the fastest growing segment of the beauty industry. Clean fragrance is the fastest segment of that because of this nature that the consumer is more educated and wants clean alternatives. So there's a white space here, and my personal story connects those dots. So are you really solving a problem? There's many ways to pitch your business, and here's a large and growing market. Fragrance is large and growing. Customers are engaging in a unique way. The white spaces, there are very few clean brands. There's a huge opportunity here. And here's my personal story about why I'm uniquely positioned to solve this problem. So I think you can layer problem in many different ways. It doesn't have to be like, oh, my shower doesn't work. And like, or like my hair is falling out because of the water I'm using in the shower. So I created a shower head that's less harsh on my skin and my hair. That's a problem solution business. There are many other businesses that are not necessarily so direct in the mannerism of problem solution, but you can channel it in a way where it demonstrates how you are uniquely positioned and tell a story of why you're creating your brand and why it makes sense.
I love that so much. It's the storytelling and the why is so
Everything.
important. Yeah.
It's all about the why, people. You heard it here first. It's all about the why. The why. People are going to walk out of that pitch and they may or may not remember a single statistic you shared or your unit economics, but they're going to remember your personality, your energy, and your story, and make it count.
Love it. What about mistakes, Divya? In terms, yeah, that's right. Mic drop. Indeed. So true. But can you talk to some mistakes that you see often are made, other than obviously confidence and lack thereof? What are some things that you see that you want to discourage and that you talk about in the book?
I see the same ones over and over again. So number one, let me just start with the pitch email that goes out that I get. If you send me a novel, I am not reading it. When you send a pitch email to any prospective investor, I always recommend you get a warm intro. A warm intro is going to make someone open up that email more than just a cold pitch. So try and get a warm intro to the investor. When you send a pitch email, I literally did a TikTok video on this, make it concise, make it to the point, and have a clear call to action. What do you want from this email? Do you want me to read your deck? Do you want an in-person meeting? Do you want to have a 15-minute coffee chat? Do you want to get to someone in my network? What's the ask? Make it very clear to me. So every single time people send a pitch email, the mistakes they make is there's no clear call to action. It's a long-winded email. I don't have time to read it, and it came to me cold. So that's classic mistakes in pitching via email. In the meeting, the mistakes that I see the most are people misrepresenting their business in some way, shape, or form. So classic ones are misrepresenting the market size, misrepresenting their traction, misrepresenting their financial projections. Misrepresentations turn investors off. Yes, should you be bullish? 100%. But be able to back up any data, claims, or statistics you made when it comes from financials all the way to market projections. Make sure you have some sort of basis of truth for them. And that really is a red flag that turns people off. Misrepresentations.
Yeah. And then, Divya, in terms of, we actually have so many more questions, and I'm going to leave you guys with the ability to actually go and read her book, because she, I know, goes into grave detail in the book, which is super helpful.
And it's a quick read.
I do want to talk about the post pitch as well, and that timeline in terms of what should founders focus on after they've delivered the pitch, because I think you've uniquely spoken about this as such an important part of the process that I think is often forgotten, right? There's the before, during, and after.
Yeah, of course. You walk out of the meeting, you pull out your iPhone, you pull out your notes app, and you write 3 things you did well and 2 things you did terribly. And you write down 3 questions people asked you, because guess what? Investors have groupthink, and you're going to get those same 3 questions again. So focus on your strengths. What did you do well in that pitch meeting? Say, I made eye contact. I spoke slowly and clearly. I had great unit economic slides that people could understand. I'm going to do that again in my next pitch. By the way, here are the 2 things I did terribly. Some guy was challenging me and I didn't have the answer to these questions, or I was off my game when they asked me about competition and I didn't have enough knowledge on one of my competitors that they asked me about. Learn from every pitch. You have to take this opportunity to become a well-oiled machine and be able to do this incredibly well. And the more you practice, the better you get at it. The other thing is follow up immediately. Follow up with investors, whether they're a fit and you want to move forward in the process, and you make a very clear ask and write a short, concise email about what the next step in the process is that, do you need any additional materials to share with your investment committee? When is your next investment committee meeting? I would love to hear back from you. Understanding who the decision maker is. You have a very clear understanding of what the next steps are, and you assess and discuss those in the meeting so that you can reiterate those in the email. Or it's not a fit, and you write a very polite email and say, hi, thank you so much. It was so great to meet you. I now realize that I'm raising $5 million and you typically have a minimum check size of $10 million. And I would love to stay in touch and have quarterly coffee with you. Here's the next time I would like to meet so that we can stay in touch as I scale to 10 million. I scaled to doing my next raise of 10 million.
Right.
You can always build warm relationships. And that is what's going to make your fundraising process a lot quicker.
It is so true. And just having that as part of your process too in the after is really crucial, and sort of institutionalizing it. It is time to wrap. I am going to get to your book and the additional points. Like there's a lot of Q&A talk that Divya goes over just in terms of how to handle investor Q&A. And then she does go deeper in the before, during, and after of the pitch. So you can definitely learn more from her book. So we'll share the information there. But I do have one more question for you, Divya, to close it. And that's that you've built and scaled and exited a number of companies. Is there anything in looking back at your career that you would change?
Oh God, I would change a lot of things. I will tell you the biggest thing I would change is choosing my investors. Choose incredibly wisely. I had this kind of competitive mindset, as I mentioned to you, when I initially raised money. I was like, I need to get term sheets from tier A VC investors who are the best of the best and have the best people on my cap table. It's not about name brands. You will be surprised the people who were most instrumental in helping me build, grow, scale, and sell my companies were actually not the top name branded investors in my cap table. They were investors who were committed to my success, whose vision and values aligned with myself and the business. So finding that alignment with the best investors and finding that chemistry where you work really well together and you have that trust and that mutual respect that when you have a problem, you have an issue, and believe me, you're going to have a lot of them. You have that confidant, you have that person to reach out to that helps really pave the way for your success. I found that later in my career, and I didn't capitalize on how important that is, that chemistry with an investor, that trust, that mutual respect, and having that one champion. It doesn't matter what their pedigree is. It doesn't matter what they built or sold. It just matters that they're committed to your success and they're going to be there for you.
So helpful. Love it. Okay, so we're going to share all the information about where to buy the book in the comments. So everybody, great. I love it. People are buying already. I'm actually going to buy my copy. I can't wait. But as in sort of closing, can't thank you enough, Divya. You can find her on TikTok at Gugnani, as well as on Instagram. It's the same. So definitely follow her. Buy the book. For FFC, we do have our Female Founders Day coming up on, which is called the Express this year, March 13th, 2025 in New York City. And just notably, we're actually almost sold out of tickets there. So don't hold on that. If you are thinking about going, it's not going to be an opportunity for much longer. And then in terms of our current cohort for the 10th house, we have our health and wellness cohort. So if you have a fitness business, if you have a supplements business, or if you have a health tech business, this is the perfect environment for you. I think Divya and I can both agree to the fact that community and building your business is everything.
It's
Being able to
everything.
dial a friend when you have no idea how to handle a situation and they've been through something even remotely close to it, it is just invaluable, and being able to fast track. So join us in there. We have more conversations like these. In fact, I think you're headed inside, right? I think so. Yeah. So she's actually going to be talking to some 10th house members today, which is super exciting. Yep. So thank you all for your time. I know it's super valuable and we appreciate you, and go get them. Listen to her advice. And if you take it, I promise you will be successful because it's invaluable. I love that. All right. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, Allie, for having me.
Thank you.